Welcome back, Foodie with Autoimmunity. I'm your host, Laura Rodriguez, holistic chef and rheumatoid arthritis warrior. And this is the Autoimmune Edible RX podcast, a show where I help foodies with autoimmunity like you use anti inflammatory comfort food as medicine without over restriction and overwhelm. If you find yourself hungry for more, I have comfort food recipes and autoimmune wellness resources available for free on my blog at cheflaurarodriguez.com/blog, or you can follow the link in the show notes below. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today, I'm taking a break from talking about all things food to share an incredible story of triumph with you from Ethan Pompeo, who is a pandas warrior and the founder of Green Valley Nutrition. Ethan has been battling autoimmunity since his early teen years and now has turned his pain into passion for helping others. And it's truly an inspirational story that I am super jazzed to share with you today. So, without further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Ethan Pompeo.
Welcome so much to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here, Ethan. I would love for you to just go ahead and start sharing with our audience. Just tell us who you are and all about you and your autoimmune wellness journey.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to share my journey with you. I'll preface it by saying I was not always willing to share. For a long time, I was very self-conscious and insecure about what I was dealing with. I was afraid to talk about my problems in life. And for a long time, it really got me nowhere. It put me in a position of isolation and loneliness and hopelessness. And that's not where anybody wants to be, especially along a healing journey. And so I've learned that just being open about things in life, regardless of what you're facing, whether it's a health issue or physical challenge or something with your relationships, being open and honest about what you're dealing with can be a great path forward, a great way to connect with others, whether receiving help or pouring into their life if you know someone who's dealing with a similar issue. And so that's what's brought me onto your show today, is just to talk about PANDAS and what that is and how it affects my life. And perhaps, if there's even one person out there listening to this who can relate and benefit from it, then it's worth our time today.
I love
So,
that. Yeah, it's so important because I think, it's like 1 in 7 Americans have an autoimmune diagnosis, but it can be a quite an isolating condition because a lot of times our symptoms are internal. Maybe we don't quote unquote look sick to a lot of people.
mm,
And when you're chronically ill, there's a lot of different things going on. So having to talk about how unwell you feel all the time, it can be a burden to people, and a lot of times we hold it in. So I completely agree with you, and I think it's really important to get on wherever you can, whatever social media platform you can, podcast you can, to share your success story because, well, no, two things. Number one, a lot of people don't know that healing autoimmunity naturally from within is possible, and a lot and sharing your story of success make
mm,
that possible for people, gives them hope of like, oh, well, you're telling me that I don't have to be on this medication forever. I could try
right.
something else and I can actually live like a good, happy, long, fruitful life. Like, so it's important that you're here. So thank you for being
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Then that it exactly embodies my story. I was originally healthy as a young man. I never really contemplated what it meant to battle with an autoimmune disease or any kind of health issue, really, because I was just living my life as we all do, right? And at 13 years old, I started having these odd neurological symptoms. Severe motor tics and loss of motor function, cognitive impairment, OCD, debilitating anxiety, all these issues that seemingly came out of nowhere. And, my parents and I are kind of examining what's going on, saying, what the heck? We got to go to the doctor. So I started having the classic Tourette's syndrome response of, you know, having these tics and uncontrollable movements and the verbal tics as well, and even exclaiming profanities at time due to the frustration I was feeling, and so we were like, something's clearly wrong. So we go to a neurologist who, quite frankly, I was in and out of his office in about 5 minutes, and I was misdiagnosed with Tourette's syndrome,
oh wow.
which was essentially a label that they put on me in order to get me treatment in the form of a pharmaceutical medication. And the first medication I was prescribed was actually a blood pressure med that had off-label use for like ticks and tremors. And so we tried this. It did absolutely nothing for me over the course of several months, and we were kind of left at square one after that. And so this continued for almost a decade of us really not getting the right answers, not having a clear path forward. I mean, Tourette syndrome for me, it didn't mean anything. We didn't know what the cause was. We didn't know how to treat or cure it. We simply knew, like, yeah, this is a term that kind of describes the symptoms we are already aware of, but it didn't do anything to help me. And so the table kind of turned when I found a physician who introduced me to a word called PANDAS. And
Mm,
it's not the cuddly bamboo munching bear that we're all familiar with. It's a mouthful. When I say it, people's eyes get wide. It's pediatric autoimmune neurological disorders associated with strep. And basically, what it is, it's a strep or other foreign pathogen that comes into your body. It's an infection that triggers an unusual autoimmune response, namely excess production of antibodies. And antibodies are one of the few compounds that can cross the blood brain barrier, meaning in my case, these strep antibodies were entering my motor cortex, my basal ganglia,
mhm,
which controls all of our motor function and many other areas of our life. And so what happened is I started to get autoimmune encephalitis, brain inflammation related to the autoimmune response of my body reacting to the strep bacteria that was basically had been affecting me for many years without us knowing.
mhm,
And so I started to have this brain inflammation, and with it, the cascade of symptoms I described earlier, the loss of motor control, the tics, and my life just started to spiral out of control as a result of those symptoms. But getting that diagnosis was really a step in the right direction because it gave us an understanding of what was actually happening, why these symptoms were appearing in my life. It was an infection that was triggering an inflammatory response, and that was our path forward. And now, if you look at the protocol for treating pandas, it's a two-pronged approach. One, getting rid of the source of infection, and two, eliminating the inflammation in your body so that you have a chance to heal.
wow. So how long was it between when you got the Tourette's diagnosis to getting the PANDAS diagnosis? Because a lot of folks struggle for years to get a chronic
Yeah.
or an actual diagnosis.
Yeah, it was about a decade
Oh,
before I actually got the PANDAS diagnosis. So we were battling. We didn't even know what we were battling for a long time. And throughout that 10-year journey, it was essentially try this med, try that med, bump the dose up. If that doesn't work, we'll switch. And by the time I was 18 years old, I had been on over 40 different prescription meds,
oh my,
none of which did the trick, right? Many of which the side effects outweighed the benefits, and I was felt worse off after taking them. So it was a difficult journey.
wow.
It's been a huge battle, and I work with several organizations now who that's our main prerogative is to help physicians diagnose and treat this more effectively. And I'm not the only one who went through this. There are many others who have gone a decade or even longer without getting that diagnosis. But today, it's much, much easier. Thanks to much of the work that these organizations have done, I've spoken with young people recently who were diagnosed in as little as 4 days
Oh wow.
after developing symptoms. So um, we can really see the impact of the work that we're doing in educating physicians, promoting awareness for pandas and similar diseases because it really does make a difference. And that's why I say talking about it is such a powerful tool because this was 20 years ago when I first started having symptoms, there was nothing. I mean, my mom was my advocate. She scoured the internet, scoured the libraries for any kind of information and research related to this, and there was just nothing out there. I mean, pandas effectively didn't exist. And so the misdiagnosis was as good as it was going to get for me for a long time. But today we have such a better understanding of our physiology and this connection between infectious disease and mental health and neuropsychiatric disease, and not just pandas, but we're tapping into an understanding of how these bacterial infections can impact schizophrenia and psychosis and even Alzheimer's and all kinds of diseases where the same is true. We don't really know the cure for at this moment. And so we're learning so much. And that's why I'm such a strong advocate for this. I believe promoting awareness and education gives us the tools we need to help others faster and more effectively.
Wow, it's just so incredible. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about the advocacy work that you've done that you just kind of touched on. Is there an organization or something that you are affiliated with?
Yeah, there's a few. So one is the Neuroimmune Foundation, and their number one goal right now is CME, but furthering physician education credits. And essentially, what we do is fundraise to put on these classes virtually and in person where physicians can sign up and come and learn all about the treatment and diagnosis protocol for these diseases outside of med school. So, I mean, you could guess like doctors are not being taught about pandas in med school. So how do we promote advocacy and awareness? We put on these courses where they can come and get actually credit on paper for learning about this, and it costs them nothing out of pocket. So it's a great tool to empower our physicians and our doctors to diagnose and treat this more effectively. Another one is the Alex Manful Fund, and we actually just had our annual 5K fundraiser last weekend, which was so much fun. There were people from all over the country. There was even a doctor from the UK who came and participated
Wow.
in the banquet dinner and the 5K. And that organization has similar goals in terms of promoting awareness for pandas, advocacy for the patient, and for furthering physician education and researching this and understanding its impact on us better. There's still so much we can learn about this and how it affects our bodies and how to heal uh, how to heal better.
Wow.
There are some treatment options out there uh, that if you're struggling with pandas, your physician will hopefully be aware of. But I always tell people if your doctor is one of those who says that you just have anxiety or kind of on the fence about pandas, it's best to find someone else who is more well versed in this because it absolutely is a real diagnosis. There is a treatment and a path forward, but you have to find someone who is familiar with that, who's an expert and who can point you in the right direction.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was the doctor that prescribed you, was she, or diagnosed you, I'm sorry, was she a functional medical doctor, or he or she, or was it still a conventional doctor? Did you along the way decide to kind of look into different doctors, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, we tried everything. I tried I tried just about everything. I mean, we tried all the medications. We tried functional medicine. We tried uh, kooky diet changes. We even tried acupuncture, and many of these treatments would have like certain immediate changes and benefits, but nothing long term. Nothing that would really kind of shake things up and make the difference for me. Um, Now, the doctor who eventually diagnosed me is a conventional doctor, and we tried a few different medications, but it was around that time when I was, about 18. I was leaving my parents' house. I was going off to college, kind of starting my own life, and I had physician fatigue. I was just sick of doctors, sick of medications, sick of pharmacies. I was just done. And so I kind of disbanded from that altogether and just kind of gritted through my symptoms.
Mhm.
And it was around that time that I actually discovered, and I'll preface this by saying I think the use of prescription meds and substance reliance for so many years very much normalized that idea of like taking chemical medication and relying on substances for relief. And so I started looking to illicit substances for use, and it really didn't seem that crazy to me because many of these meds I had been on were mind-altering drugs in a
Yeah.
pill form with a doctor's signature next to it. So to me, to go to my friends and this and that and the other, it didn't seem that out of the ordinary. So I started using cannabis, namely to help with my symptoms. And I'll be honest, it was the only thing I found that actually worked and actually gave me relief. I knew that when I smoked, my tics would go away, my anxiety would calm down, I would feel better, I'd be able to just breathe and relax. And it was like a game changer for me. And I come from a very conservative family. So using cannabis was like a huge no no. And I
Hiding
remember,
it from your family, or
what was that?
You hiding it from your family then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, they if I had to hide it. I mean, my mom busted me I don't know how many times, and we had that conversation over and over and over again. And it just didn't connect for them why I was using it. You know, they saw their son struggling for so many years, dealing with this illness, and now he's, you know, using illicit drugs. It's like you fear for your child watching he or she go down the kind of this downward spiral, and I totally understand where they were coming from. But the everything changed one evening when I came back home for a visit, and I guess my dad smelled it on me or something and said, "Ethan, you know, have you been smoking?" And I said, "Dad, why are you asking me this? Like, you know I do this." And he said, "Well, you're just so relaxed. You're so calm." And I said, "Dad, that's why I'm doing it. Like, I'm not just doing this to party. Like, I'm not just doing this to have a good time. Like, this is actually helping me feel better, and that's why I'm using it." And it's like the light bulb went off in his mind, and they finally understood. Like, man, maybe he is trying to use this medicinally. The problem is, it's not a medicinal use when you're getting a different batch every time. You know, there's no consistency or quality control at all with this
Sure.
unregulated product. So certain times it'd make me feel great. Certain times it would make my anxiety worse. Or certain times, you know, I'd have coughing fits, and all these side effects started to catch up with me as well through my use of cannabis. And so I needed to find a solution that gave me that relief that I found from this plant that was actually good for me, like long term, no risks, and
Mhm.
so forth. And that's when I discovered CBD. And CBD is call it nature's most powerful anti inflammatory.
Okay.
It's a cannabis or hemp derived compound, but it's non intoxicating.
Mhm.
So there's no high associated with that. You don't have to smoke. You can apply it topically or take it orally. And so for me, it was a total game changer. I could now get that anti inflammatory relief that relieved my basal ganglia inflammation, helped my symptoms to get better. My tics would go away, my anxiety would fade. The
Wow.
same benefits I got from smoking, but I didn't have to smoke. There was no
Right.
risk of intoxication or long term side effects or health hazards associated with it.
Mhm. So what did you take, like a CBD oil, or were you doing topical, or what were you doing?
When I first found out like this was actually a thing, I was just any way I could get it in my
Or
body. I was using
gummies
it.
or whatever?
I started experimenting with all different types of things, you know, different doses, different formats, different applications, just to see what worked best for me. And still today, that's what I typically recommend for someone trying CBD is like experiment to find out what works best for you. There's no real like prescription dose because everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. Your metabolism's different. The use is different. You know, your symptom severity is different. So what works for me may not work for you. Typically, we recommend someone start with a low dose and work up as needed to find what works best for them, and then stick with that. So it's all about like finding the lowest dose to achieve your maximum benefits. And that's what I do now. Now, when I was really battling my symptoms, I took a much higher dose than I do today. And I advocate for all kinds of different lifestyle changes that can reduce inflammation in your body and reduce anxiety naturally. But for me, it's really hard to get there when you're battling disease and illness. Like you feel stuck in your symptoms. And battling ticks, I was often physically stuck in my symptoms. So to come home and then contemplate like ways to get better, it wasn't really an option. I just wanted to get through the day. So for
Right.
me, CBD was like the catalyst for my lifestyle change because it gave me that relief that I was looking for and so desperately seeking,
Mhm.
so that I could step back and take a deep breath and refocus and think, all right, like how do I get myself out of the house and into an exercise routine? Like, you know, what changes
What
do I need
else
to
can
make?
I do? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So, a couple questions. So, in the beginning, if you're recommending for somebody to try CBD, are you recommending that they start with the lowest dose but work up until like their pain subsides and they're like, okay, this is my dose for now, and then you can wean off of it and get on a maintenance dose? And then are you to take CBD every day or? What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We have a number of physicians that work on our team, and many do recommend the start low and work up. Others recommend, especially like depending on the severity of your need, you could start with a high dose and then taper down for to
Okay.
the same effect, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because oftentimes if you're dealing with chronic pain, you just need relief. So taking a high
Right.
dose that you know is going to help you, and then titering down to find like the minimum dose that gives you those benefits is also a good option. CBD is remarkable because it's incredibly safe. There is no known toxic dose. Like you could
Okay.
drink the whole bottle and be fine. But again, like you're paying for it. So the
Right.
whole idea is to find that minimum amount. Uh, but yeah, I, I would definitely advocate for like finding that dose that works for you and sticking to that. And then you can always play around with it as needed. I do prefer the oral tincture form. It's a sublingual drop. It actually enters your bloodstream directly under your tongue and gets to work very quickly. So, opposed to other solutions like a soft gel or a gummy, it's much more fast. It's faster acting. It gets to work right away. I mean, I noticed a difference in my anxiety within like 20 to 30 minutes of
Mhm.
taking it. I drip it under my tongue and wait about 30 seconds before swallowing, and it just gets to work real quickly, which is great. People who have chronic pain needs can take it orally and apply it topically directly to that area of need, and they tend to have the best results. So again, it's kind of just playing around with it and seeing what works best for your body.
When you say tincture, do you mean like it's the hemp flower like soaked in, you know, grain alcohol and then a tincture like that, or is it like in oil?
So the product that I use and that I recommend is not a true tincture. There's no alcohol
Okay.
in it.
Okay. Okay.
So what we've done is we've extracted the pure CBD out of the hemp plant.
Okay.
So it's a very pure, isolated form that we then infuse into a carrier oil like MCT coconut oil. So it's just my product is two ingredients,
Okay.
CBD and coconut oil. So it's very close to nature, very easy to dose, and again, very safe.
So as you've kind of alluded to, you talked about your team and your product. So you have a CBD oil company. Do you want to tell us more about that and like the name of it and where we can find it and all those things?
Yeah. It's Green Valley Nutrition, and if you go to my website, my logo is a panda bear. My journey with CBD was very serendipitous. Like I told you, I discovered CBD through uh, illicit use of the plant, which is ironic because through using cannabis, I actually discovered a non-intoxicating form that really helped me to heal. And so that's what I offer. When I first discovered CBD, I was just experimenting with all different products and doses. And so, literally, my business started in the spare bedroom of my house, just formulating different products to see what worked for me. And pretty soon, people started asking me about it. Grandma had knee pain and wanted to try it on her knees. Grandpa needed help with his sleep, so he wanted to try it to help him sleep better, and it could because it has that calming effect. So I realized, man, there's a real need for this product in alternative medicine, aside from just my use of it, and people are more willing to trust it because it's not cannabis. It's not an intoxicating product. Everything that I produce is 100% THC free, meaning it's safe for everybody. And quite honestly, I wish I had had access to this as a 13-year-old because it would have made my life a whole lot easier navigating through these challenges. And so, what we wanted to do was create a product that's safe for you and your kids and your pets and anyone who has these kind of inflammatory needs, whether it be related to anxiety or sleep or chronic pain or just systemic inflammation. CBD can have remarkable benefits without really any risk of side effects. The only real side effect is drowsiness in high doses, so people who are looking to use it for sleep love that. But I
Yeah,
always say
don't take it
if
before you take a long road trip or something.
that's right, that's right. So if you do notice yourself feeling drowsy, it probably means you just could just cut back your dose.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. So you mentioned sleep, you mentioned obviously the tics and the OCD and the anxiety. What else, what other conditions have you found people with autoimmunity are using your CBD oil for?
Yeah, I mean, the customer testimonials we get are amazing. And truly, it's the reason why I still do what I do. I started Green Valley Nutrition in 2016, and being a disability owned business, like a business owner with disability,
Mhm.
has had its share of challenges. I mean, running a business in and of itself is difficult,
Right.
but add to it the complicated layer of like managing PANDAS and symptom changing over the years, there's been I've had my moments. But
Yeah.
looking back on all the testimonials and things that people have said, I mean, almost every day now we're getting someone goes on our website and says, "Oh, like my child with autism is like so much more calm and comfortable now." Or like, my husband has had chronic knee pain for 20 years and nothing's worked and now he's like running again. And these kind of life-changing testimonials are what keep me doing it every day, because just seeing the difference we're making in people's lives is just so powerful. It's amazing. I will say those are our three most common use models: anxiety relief, pain relief, and sleep support.
Mhm.
But the fastest growing demographic we're seeing is actually people who are using this for their to support their children,
Okay.
whether they have ADHD, OCD, autism, some kind of developmental disorder, or pain, whatever it may be. Even kids who struggle to go to bed at night,
Yeah.
this can be a safe alternative for them to give them some support and some relief, without looking to like conventional pharmaceuticals. And
Right.
so many people are willing to try this when they see, oh, this is safe. There's no THC in this. Like it's not a marijuana product.
Mhm.
They're more apt to actually try this, especially since the pandemic. People have been more open to alternative treatment options like CBD, and so that's really becoming a quickly growing segment for us,
Mhm.
which I think is incredible based on my own history.
Yeah. So I have a question, just a personal question for you. Do you like I think about other people who have specific like your pandas was triggered by strep infection, right? So I think about other people who have similar, like maybe their Hashimoto's started because of an H. pylori bacterial infection in the gut or something. Do you ever have anxiety about like contacting strep, like as an adult? Like, does it make you nervous, or you're like, that's a thing of the past now?
No, I don't. I used to have anxiety around it because I know when I got sick, especially when I contracted strep, my symptoms would flare. I'd have these big flare-ups because that was like the root cause of my illness. I'd get strep, my body would fight it off by producing more antibodies, and those antibodies would again attack my brain.
Hmm.
And so my symptoms would get worse. Today, I mean, I like to consider myself 90% healed
Hmm.
because of the lifestyle changes I've made. I take no prescription meds. I don't smoke. I don't do any of that stuff today. And a lot of that has made a huge difference. And just eating an anti inflammatory diet, focusing on getting good foods, minimizing intake of processed foods and sugary foods, that in and of itself is huge. I mean, the food we eat is our primary medicine.
Hmm.
So focusing on that, changing my diet, retooling my diet and my outlook, getting in an exercise routine. Weightlifting has been key to my healing, not only because I feel better and I look better, but physiologically, the muscle mass I've gained through weightlifting and eating right has mitigated the impact that these inflammatory cytokines, these autoimmune cells, have on my body. And I do see a functional doctor these days, who has helped me with all of these lifestyle changes and implementing them and looking at the blood work and seeing the direct impact on how they've changed my physiology. And he has said that the muscle mass I've gained acts as a sink for these inflammatory compounds. So instead of going into my brain, these autoimmune cells are stored in the muscle tissue, which is like
That's
basically
amazing.
has cured me,
That's
right?
amazing.
So it's huge, and it's also diluted the effect of them on my body because there's more of me now through gaining all this weight. So
So,
I am a
so
huge
the
advocate for
weight
that.
gain resistance was something that you struggled with earlier on in your journey?
Yeah, I was like 135 pounds throughout high school and even college, very underweight, very unhealthy, very sedentary in
Mhm.
my lifestyle, and the smoking did not help that.
Sure. So, okay, so you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet. Are you still taking CBD or kind of as needed?
Yeah, I take it most days. It is as needed. Like if I wake up and I don't have CBD, I'll be fine for
Yeah.
that day. But it still helps me. I still focus on anti-inflammatories. CBD is not the only anti-inflammatory supplement I take. I take flavonoids like vitamin D and quercetin. I take curcumin, turmeric.
Mhm.
All of these things have had a bit positive effect on my health.
Awesome. I love it. I'm curious if there's anything that you would say to baby Ethan when he was 10, 12, 11, 13 years old. What would you say to him?
Well, knowing what I know now, I would say there is hope for healing because for many many years I just thought I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. I'll never have hope of healing, and it was a dark place to be in. I mean, my ticks would be so bad at times that I'd have to pick up my phone and put it down and pick it up and put it down over and over again until I became so frustrated it would end up sailing across the room and putting a hole in the wall. I mean, it was not fun. And so, that's a very bleak outlook on life when you think you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. You're overemphasizing other people's views of you. I used to think that people were staring at me and people thought I was a freak, and people would ask me, are you okay? Are you okay? They'd see me ticking and say, "Are you okay?" And I would just get so mad
Yeah.
on the inside. Looking back, they were just genuinely curious, like, hey, are you having a seizure? Like, are you okay? And
Right.
so now, if someone asks me that, I say, oh yeah, I just have these ticks. It's all good, and they're like, oh, and they go back to their business. Most people are too worried about themselves to really like care about what you're doing, and that was a truth that I recognize that has helped my mental health
Yeah.
tremendously. But I would go back and tell him, look, don't give up hope. Like there is a day where you're going to feel better and be able to even help others along their journey. That would have been a very encouraging truth to hear. But again, we didn't know what we know now at that time, and so a lot has changed. But that's why I come on your show today is
Yeah.
to spread that message. Like there is hope for healing. Don't give up. Don't succumb to your illness. Right.
Mhm.
Continue to fight it and find things that will work for you in your life.
Mhm. So you have daughters, is that correct?
I do. I have four little girls. Yeah.
Oh, that's precious. So, do you raise your girls, eating healthy and exercising and doing all the things that you've come to learn to do for optimal health now that you've, kind of hit rock bottom in your health, or do you kind of raise them the more standard American way?
Yeah, after everything I've been through, I believe it's critical to focus on your health before you hit that health crisis, right? Instead of getting to that point where you're like, oh man, something has to change. It's way easier to be proactive. It's cheaper to be proactive,
True.
right? And so that's what we do. And you asked me about, like, am I concerned about a strep throat infection? Like the way that I live my life now, if I got strep throat, I wouldn't even have to take antibiotics. It would run its course. I'd be over it in a few days and I'd be back to normal
Okay.
because I'm giving my body what it needs to fight off those pathogens. I'm
Mhm.
not exactly sure why I was able to fight it off as a kid, but something was not right. I don't know if I had a deficiency of some sort, or if I was working my body too hard in cross country. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, I was not feeding my body the inputs it needed to respond to that infection appropriately. And so what happened is it just festered within me and caused this cascade of issues. I don't want that for any of my kids, right? So we're very focused on an alternative lifestyle. We spend most of our time outside in
Yeah.
the sunshine. We work in the gardens. We raising fresh food. We're doing all the hippie backed stuff in terms of like farm to table food, eating
Yeah.
right. We're on well water, right? We're very active lifestyle. My wife and I work out 3 to 4 days a week,
Yeah.
and just aside from that, just doing things that are good for our mental health, doing things that we enjoy from day to day, starting our day off with like reading scripture and prayer and meditation and quiet time in the mornings, playing guitar in the evenings or joining a baseball team, making time for the things that make us feel fulfilled and whole as human beings. We overlook that in our culture, and it's so easy to become like a workaholic and like you'll drive yourself crazy doing that. So We focus on all those areas of health, body, mind, and spirit for that holistic wellness. And, my kids are some of the happiest kids you'll ever meet.
Well, it's so lovely to talk to you. I'm going to link
Yeah.
all the links to your website and your CBD company, and as well as the other foundations that we talked about for anybody that's interested in donating or maybe coming to your 5K or your, annual dinner next, I guess next year, next spring maybe.
Yeah, wonderful. That'd be great. We've been growing every year. We'd love to have more people show up next year. It's so
Yeah.
much fun and just a wonderful community too. I mean, so many people that are just supportive and knowledgeable and well versed who can help each other through this. So I love it. I'm very blessed to be a part of it, and I appreciate your support. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. Do you want to just say one last thing, like where everybody can follow you? Do you want us to follow you on
Sure.
YouTube, Instagram? Where do you hang out?
Yeah, Instagram is my social media of choice right now.
Okay.
I post all kinds of funny stuff, about life and pandas and mental health and motorcycles and all the stuff that I do. It's Ethan underscore pandas. You can find me on Facebook at Ethan Pompeo as well. And my website is honestly a wealth of resources. Like, it's not just CBD. I have a blog on there where I post all kinds of informative content, educational stuff. You can contact us directly if you have questions about CBD or pandas or anything else. Like, we're just here to help. So you can absolutely find me on there, and it's greenvalleynutrition.com. My story's on there if you want to learn more about that. And it's, yeah, so I'm not hard to find.
I love it. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, and I'm going to get myself some CBD and report back.
Please, yes, I'd love your feedback on it.
Yeah.
Honestly, the product it really works. It's an awesome product. It's very minimal, very close to nature, and um, we do all kinds of testing beyond what's required of us as
Okay.
dietary supplements to ensure that like what's in the bottle matches what's on the label and that what you're putting in your body is something that's safe and trustworthy. My wife and I use it almost every day, and so we want to know it's safe enough for our bodies and for our customers.
Where
So
is the CBD actually grown or the hemp?
all the hemp is grown in Virginia. And
Okay.
so that's the only part of the equation that I do not handle. I do everything except the cultivation. So I have a network of close trusted growers here in Virginia, as close as like 10 miles from us,
Mhm.
where we source our hemp. And we bring that back to our facility and extract the oil and refine that into the pure CBD that I talked about. And that's what we use to manufacture all of our products.
Wow. Fantastic. Is the hemp grown organically or?
Yes, yes. All the hemp is grown to very high standards. Everything's organic, and I personally go out to all the farms and ensure that the goals and ideas of the farmer match what we're trying to do with our company. And I find that almost everybody who's in this space is in it because of a similar health issue that they faced. I mean, this is an incredibly medicinal plant, and I think generally, if you're in it for the CBD, you've experienced or encountered some kind of health issue where this has helped lead you out of it. And so that's been like a common thread for everybody I've networked with in this industry, which I think is really cool. We've all found ways to heal using this plant and nature as our advocate. So I think that's really cool.
I personally don't have a lot of pain anymore, but I'm curious, like if you wanted to make a mocktail that would be relaxing, could you put it in like some sparkling water with some citrus juice, like and just drink it like in a mocktail?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a
Okay.
common question we get, especially for kids. Oftentimes kids, especially with autism, they will be reluctant to like putting
Put
the
it-
oil under their tongue.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
add it to your beverage or
Okay.
smoothie, and as long as you consume it, yeah, you'll get the benefits. So
Wow.
that's a really fun way to do it.
Well, we might have to come down to Virginia and do a little farm dinner as a fundraiser. That would be fun.
Oh, cool.
Do
I'd
some
love that.
hemp things in the food and some mocktails and stuff. That'd be fun.
I'm always brainstorming ideas to get together and network and do those little events because that is honestly the best way to connect with people. That let's put a menu together.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you again.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you see what I mean? Ethan is such an inspiration. Definitely make sure to follow him on Instagram at Ethan underscore pandas and check out all of his amazing CBD products online at greenvalleynutrition.com. I've linked both of those for you in the show notes as well. I'm going to be ordering some goodies off of his website soon and sharing with you how they taste and how they work for me all on Instagram. So make sure you're following me there at Chef Laura Rodriguez. And, if you or someone you know is struggling with any of the symptoms that Ethan mentioned in this podcast today, please click the link in the show notes below to learn more about how you can help them get support, which doctors to take them to get them help, and just to learn more about pandas in general. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Autoimmune Edible RX podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Please share this episode with someone you know or love, or, leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It really helps other foodies with autoimmunity hear this message. I'll see you in a couple weeks where I'll have Dr. Felicia Harris on to talk about gut health and autoimmunity. I'm super excited for that as well. Until then, if there's only one thing that you can do for your health today, please eat your damn vegetables. Bye!